Waiting for somebody to show up. Maybe somebody will pop in. As soon as somebody shows up in here, I'm going to open this box. Just received from FedEx. 7 months in the waiting. Or more than that. This is some books that I sent to CGC. Hey, hello. What's up, Billy? West Coast. So we got some books here from the last CGC sketch signing opportunity for Arthur Adams. I sent these books to CGC last September, and they finally arrived today. And I did see the images online, of course. I don't have the patience to wait until they arrive. So these are 4 sketch covers. Oh, Mr. Pope! How are you? We haven't talked in ages. It's been too long, my friend. As far as I can recall, I think the last time we spoke, I was driving around. It was a late night for me in 2018. If that's, could it be 8 years? Is that insane? That can't be right. I don't know. But let's change that. Life has been pretty interesting for both of us. I know. It's not easy. But let's take a look at the stuff that we can get enjoyment out of, right? So here we go. These are original sketch cover art. Let's turn these over. And here's the first one that we see. Hopefully we can get some good light on this. I don't know. Hopefully you can see this fairly well. There you go. So that is an original sketch by Arthur Adams, drawn on January 23rd. I believe one of them was actually witnessed. It's said on the grader's notes, but I think the other 3 were done at home. 3 of them were done March 3rd, and this one was done January 23rd. I'm not sure which one was drawn at a show or not. But my theme was all Universal monsters. Thankfully, Skybound and Image has had these new series, official Universal monsters, new stories. And there's a Dracula, Frankenstein, and a Creature from the Black Lagoon series. And there was a Mummy series that just came out. Wasn't in time for this, but there's going to be another Arthur Adams sketch opportunity later this year, and I'm going to be sending in the Mummy to have the Mummy drawn, and as well I'm going to send 2 copies in, one of Karloff as the Mummy and one of him as the Egyptian priest Imhotep. So there's 2. I mean, you could get other characters for Dracula. I could have him draw Lucy maybe next time, or Van Helsing. You know, there are other characters within the story, but I usually just get the monsters. So here's the second one, Creature from the Black Lagoon. And folks might know that Arthur did a Creature from the Black Lagoon series that he's well known for. Wow, you can see I'm amazed that all these books get 9.8. They just give them 9. Look at the cover. It's all rippled, because he put, wash on there, or marker tone, or whatever it is that he put on. And that, of course, rippled the paper. I mean, if this was a regular book, I don't think it's getting a 9.8, but they're kind of being a little bit lenient, although I've seen some books from these CGC signings get 9.2s. 99% of them have been 9.8. All the ones that I've submitted have been 9.8. This is the only one that I've seen so far because, he is using these tones. All my other ones, it's just black and white, pen and ink. So that one has warped the paper. Oh, I don't know what happened on the back there. You see, oh, that's interesting. So if we see the back of the other one, there's nothing going on. I'm not sure what's going on back there. It looks like the slab, the inner well, seems to have been chopped out. I'm wondering if that's something I need to send in for a re-slab, because it does look kind of odd. I mean, the front is fine, and of course, once I send it, then you don't get the book back for another month. But they'll pay for everything, and they'll send it back to me. You got to worry if something happens in, being sent out in the mail, and it gets lost. It's an original sketch. You can't replace that, but I don't know if that bothers me or not. But I don't know. The quality control at CGC, I mean, I don't think it's ever been terrific, but I don't know about that, how they let that one go out. But at any rate, and here is the next one. And the slab is fine on this. I had a House of Secrets recently that came with a big crack in here and pieces missing. And I had to send that back, but there we go. There is a Monster of Frankenstein. This one is just gorgeous. I mean, let's look at that. Look at it in detail. I like to call Arthur Adams art the same wording that they use, and it was the name of a fanzine for Led Zeppelin. I call it tight but loose. That was the name given to Zeppelin live, because they're tight, they're super tight, but yet they're loose in the sense that they could improvise within their arrangements, and yet they were still tight. But with Arthur Adams, the drawing is tight. When you look at that, it looks very detailed. There's a lot of, cross-hatching, pen and ink work going on, but yet there's a looseness to it. There's a vitality and a freshness to the line that, it doesn't feel stiff. That some people who do, super detailed work, you look at the art and it just kind of looks frozen, but this still has a movement to it, and yet it's still detailed. So Arthur Adams, tight but loose. Arthur Adams, the Led Zeppelin of comic art. And this one, again, he used the tones. He's been doing that the last few years. I'm not exactly sure if he's used, I don't think it's Copic markers. I think it's like a wash, maybe like like diluted ink that he's using with a brush. Although over here it does look like a marker, so maybe it is a marker. Not 100% sure, but God, that's a beautiful drawing. And I did ask for classic renditions. He did a Frankenstein for somebody else on one of these same sketch covers during this sketch. Yeah, it does look amazing, doesn't it? And the other Frankenstein that he did was a little bit more sort of possibly based a little bit along the lines of the Thomas Edison Frankenstein, or maybe even a little bit of the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein, but it was a different style Frankenstein. This one is a little bit more traditional. He has a flat top, but he doesn't have the hair coming down the front, but it's his own take, but that is indisputably, unmistakably Frankenstein. And he's got the fur coat, which he used the shawl that he had in Son of Frankenstein. So there's that one. And then last but not least, could not go without, and Arthur Adams, of course, is super well known for drawing beautiful women. And then we have The Bride. Look at that beautiful drawing. Look at the detail. It's interesting how he used her hair, kind of just falls into, if he had drawn white lines through it, it would disappear into it, and it would almost just be like a drawing without having any word, but it's fine. I mean, it blends right in. And if you notice, just look at the little detail, attention to detail, is that this iris, or this pupil is larger than that one, sort of like David Bowie, and it just gives it that slightly off-kilter, slightly eerie, creepy feel. Just like a slight, who would think to do that, right? But you could say she was put together from parts, and maybe she wasn't necessarily using the same eyes. He took an eye from one and an eye from another, and one had a smaller pupil. Who knows? It just gives it that kind of, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just something, off creepy center about it. But I mean, look at the drawing. Look at the ears. Just look how beautiful. I mean, look at you can see that, he's paying attention. All these little hairs. That's a lot of work that's going on in there. And just, the stitching, and it's just beautiful. And the solid, clean outline, it's just so beautiful. Just the line work and the cross hatching in there, just those little, just gives you a good feeling. And this one, interestingly, didn't use any wash on that one. And he had done them already, because the first one he did in January, and then he did 2 of the others the same day as this. So he did 3 of these. He did the Frankenstein, the Creature, and this one all on the same day. But he didn't feel a need, I guess, for any wash on this one, which is fine by me. I mean, it looks beautiful. It might have been maybe a little bit more consistent with the other ones, but I'm not complaining. I mean, it's gorgeous, And the more I look at them, the more I find things to appreciate. So you got those, and those. I don't know if we can see those all together. It's hard to get them all in one shot. I've got a lot of comic books on this page, on this table. I don't know if we can somehow move them. There we go. How many? Yes, good question. I think that he did around 200, something like that. I know that in the last batch, because he took them home and he worked on most of them at home, and he had delivered at a show recently 70, and then I heard that he had another 50 to go, which I believe he's working on now. And previous to that, he had supposedly done 100 or somewhere in that neighborhood. I have only personally seen, and only that have been posted either on Facebook forums or comic art line forums, I'd say probably around 20 or so that I've seen, 25 maybe. Maybe 30, I'm not sure, with mine, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there's a lot that have not been seen by anybody, and whoever bought them are not online type people, or they didn't feel like sharing them, or, whatever it is. So I'll disclose a little bit more information about these. He did a signing in 2023 where the prices were, how long? Yes, I'll tell you that as well. These are based on his sketching opportunity when you get to see him at an actual show, which is very hard. So getting through the CGC opportunity, you're guaranteed to get a drawing. If you see him at a show, even though he's there for 3 days, is no guarantee that he's going to get to your drawing, because there might be 30 people that want a drawing and he might only do 4 or 5. And if it's New York Comic Con, he's so busy with so many other things going on, he might only do 1 or 2. But I've seen him do like up to 10 or more at smaller shows around the country where he's had a little bit more time. Not all of them to this level, but these are his $500. These were $585 each. They were, that included the encapsulation, the grading, and all that. So these would be on his $500 level at a show, although these are more detailed even than he would do for some of the drawings at his shows, because he's doing them at home, so he has a little bit more time. But they're generally in the $500 category. He also has a $250 level. So $250 is 15 minutes, and these $500 are 30 minutes. So I don't know if he only spent 30 minutes on this, but honestly, he might have. He is pretty quick when you actually see him and he starts drawing. Once he's got the pencil drawing down and the inking, but I would say these are in the 30 to 45 minute range, if all's going well for him, I would say. I mean, you can find a couple of drawings of him, videos of him drawing online. There's one of him doing a storm, of doing this like sort of hybrid Green Goblin. It's like a split face, and they're edited slightly, but they're pretty much the drawing from beginning to end. And they're about a half an hour, and yet, they're pretty detailed. So, these have a little bit more stuff going on, and these are a little bit more out, aside from maybe him. The Dracula is definitely out of his wheelhouse in the sense that he does, you see him drawing more Wolverine and superheroes and characters like that. But if he, needs to draw something that's a little bit more realistic, look at that. I mean, that's fantastic. I think his drawing skills have only gotten better as he's gotten older, right? Some artists digress, and I think he's or regress or whatever. I think he's just improved. But so getting back, he had a sketch opportunity in 2023 where he was. They were calling it remarques, and back in 2019 was the very first CGC sketch opportunity that he did. Also at that time, they were called remarques, and they were $130, including the whole thing. I didn't send anything in at that time because I don't know why, but the example they showed, at the time I thought, oh, it's just going to be a little doodle or, something that's not worth it or whatever. But the second time they came around, they showed a sample and it looked like a fairly nice little drawing. And then at that point, I could see some of the ones that were done from the first time. And I was like, well, these are actually not bad. They were small. I mean, they were like maybe this big and they were much looser. They were quick. They were, doodle sketch remarks that you could say, all right, it's $130, $150. But even for Arthur Adams, it's worth it to me. So I sent in 8. I sent 5 of the blanks. They're in my box over there. I could get those. And 3 that had published covers that had a space for a drawing, which basically would be a remarque. And then he surprised everybody by doing really, really nice detailed drawings that nobody was expecting him to do such, fully fleshed out rendered. Some of them he did smaller, but, the majority of them, not to this level, but pretty nice. You were like, wow, I paid $130 for that. And he did it again for that one. He must have done a couple of hundred. And one person, very enterprising, very smart, had a bit of forethought. They must have sent in, I don't know, 30 or 40 to get sketched. And it was a comic shop that's on eBay. And they started listing them for sale. So they paid $130 each, and they wound up reselling them. Some of them, a couple went for like $1,500. I think the cheapest was like one that sold for like $700, but they generally went from like, $700 to $100 to $1,000, depending on the character. If it was a pretty girl, he did a lot of Savage Land Rogues, and Wolverine, did really well. And whoever it is that invested maybe, whatever it was, a couple $1,000, they made like $20,000 or, whatever it was. And because of that, I don't know why he spent all that extra time. Thankfully he did. This next round, this one, they raised the prices, which is understandable. And he raised it to the rate basically that he would be getting at a show where you're not guaranteed, but this way you're guaranteed. So these, again, $585 each, but he did have another level, a $320 level that he was calling the remarque level. This time, this is called the sketch level. And the $320 level is basically the level of detail that he was doing for the ones that he did last time, which were 130, but were still beautiful drawings. So they're fairly large, maybe not as large as these, not taking up the whole page, and not as detailed. But I saw a few that was like, wow, is that the full sketch version or is that the 320? Because they look pretty good. If he did hair for a woman, maybe it wasn't as fully, he didn't draw every line. It was like, a little bit more general shape to the hair. But still, I mean, for him, for an artist of his caliber, I thought very well worth it. And I mean, there are like Jim Lee signings where he'll do like a profile headshot that really is like a doodle that I don't think he could have spent more than 2 minutes on, and they're like $700 or $800. And I'm like, Look at what Arthur Adams is doing, who I believe is I mean, I love Jim Lee's work, but I think Arthur Adams is a better artist, overall. And, he's just as legendary, if not more legendary to me. He's been around longer. And, to get a drawing from him at this level of any character you want, I mean, literally anything. I could have, if there's a Queen one with Freddie Mercury, I could ask for Freddie Mercury. But I'll show you the ones that he did the last time for me. It's in one of my boxes here on the bottom. If I can get to it. Let's find. Where is my box? A lot of boxes of comics here. So to get to one, you gotta move other ones. Here we go. Wow. Here we go. If you're still with me. So this is this is from the last sketch opportunity. So this was, basically what you thought you were going to get. There's the only thing I wish you did on this was erase. A lot of people like it, the construction lines. That one I wouldn't mind the circle being erased, but it's fine. Another, that was 130 and it came back at 9.8. I was surprised on a 9.8 on this. I thought it wouldn't get that high a grade. The back cover is by Charles Vess. But this is actually his first published work for Marvel. I think he did actually there was, he did a pinup of the famous Farrah Fawcett, poster from the 70s, as a rabbit that was in a issue of Captain Carrot or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was like on the letters page. It was published. I think it might have been fan art. And then he had an independent comic called High Energy fanzine that somebody published. That was his very first sequential published work, but this is his first published Marvel cover. And it's for Marvel Fanfare in 1984. And there was actually an alternate version of this cover that you can find the pencils for online. It's fairly similar to this, but for whatever, some slight changes. But that was a published cover. So the story in here has Black Widow and, who was the character's name? I forgot her name. Somebody help me. I remembered and I knew and now I've forgotten. Of course, it doesn't list who the character's name is, but she's a dragonfly or dragon something. She's not a very popular character, but she's a cool looking character. So he did Black Widow on that one. And then on this one, he did that character. Whoever her name is. I can't remember her name. I don't know if he had drawn her since he drew that cover. That's his signature from back in the day, September of 1983, and that's his updated signature. So those were that, and then I asked there was a Virgin variant cover of Amazing Spider-Man with Mary Jane, and her arm was exposed, and I thought it would be cool if she had a Spider-Man Peter Parker split head, like as if it was a tattoo on her shoulder, and that's what he drew that. So I asked for that specifically right there. That's just so gorgeous. I mean, look at that. A lot of people say that he draws his females, or some of them, that they look like Anna de Armas. That one, I would say she kind of does. I don't know if he's actually looking at her or using her as inspiration, but it's possible. But that's beautiful. And then when we get to the actual sketch covers, you can see there's this beautiful, beautiful Princess Leia. I mean, I was debating at this time. I mean, now, of course, in hindsight, if I had known that he was going to be doing drawings at this level, I would have sent 20 in at that time at $130. I only sent the 8 in. And of course, it's still a lot of money, but what was it? Like, $1,100 or something like that for the 8 of them. I mean, honestly, I would have sent 20 in if I had known that he was going to go to this level. There were characters that I wanted that I had to, say, oh, well, I have to narrow it down. And I did want him to draw a woman, a female, because he draws ladies so beautifully. And he did there was another Princess Leia that he did during the sketch opportunity that was really nice. I think this one's a little bit nicer. And he was also, for some reason, he changed his style on certain ones where he was drawing this sort of like anime nose where it was kind of missing the nostril on one side and a little bit of the bottom. So it was just sort of the curve. I wasn't crazy about that. And I'm thankful that he did the full nose on mine. And of course, when he did this, these drawings, they're more in the realistic style. But I just absolutely love that drawing. So we got that one. And then how could I not get a Wolverine from probably the best Wolverine artist? I was just overjoyed with how well these drawings turned out at that time. And then he draws probably, aside from the King, Jack Kirby, probably the best thing. John Byrne drew a great thing, but I just love Arthur Adams' rendition of the Thing. And I have a 9x12 drawing that he did at a convention a couple of years ago that I bought third party on eBay that has a background, a little bit more, stuff going on, but basically just as much rendering. That one I've got framed on my wall, but that's just awesome. Got that menacing, pissed off look. I'm gonna screw you up, dude. And these, again, they were all drawn on the same day, February 23rd, 220, almost, just a little over a year ago. So you got that. And then I went with Ultraman. I know Ultraman is his favorite Japanese superhero, and he does collect Japanese toys. And if Arthur Adams might be watching, you can see I've got a lot of Japanese toys there as well. I've talked to him briefly about that. Hey, Bambi, my sister's here. So that was his rendition of Ultraman, and thankfully they had an Ultraman series, so there were blank sketch covers available. And then I had to narrow it down. I had to get a monster from Ultraman, and is it Gamora? It's not Gamora's from Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think it's almost the same name for this monster. There were tons. I was thinking of maybe possibly Balton Saigen to have him do. I mean, there's a cover that he did, because he did a bunch of variant covers for the Rise of Ultraman series, and there's one cover that has Ultraman right here surrounded by all the different kaiju, and I chose this guy from all those because I thought he looked, kind of cool, really cool, but any of them would have been cool. And again, if I had known that he was going to draw them to this level, I probably would have asked for 4 or 5 other ones on other sketch covers. Well, this one was it 223? 223. Yeah, they're all February 23rd of last year. So these are just my Arthur Adams sketch covers. I also own separately somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 other pieces, finished drawings, published covers, published pages, commissions, drawings that he's done for me at shows, or at home. So these are the latest, and his next opportunity through CGC is going to be later this year, I believe. And if you want to get in on that, you can subscribe to the CGC website, their newsletter, and they'll announce it, and usually have about at least a month of time to be able to get your books in. I sent these blanks in within a couple of days of the last announcement, but I only received them today, and I know people that sent their books in up until like the last week that they were accepting the submissions, and they got their books back over a month ago. So, he worked on them as he felt, and however, no specific first come, first served, doesn't matter. So, if there is that opportunity, I don't think you have to scramble to get them out within the first day or two. But of course, the better you get them in, the more assured that you'll get in. There is no limit, at least up until now. There have been no limits on now. Some of these sketch opportunities, the artists are, they'll only do sketches on the first 10 submissions, which, is basically, you got to get it in like the day that it's announced and overnight mail it, With Arthur Adams, there's no limit. Because, hey, he's happy to make the money and he's able to do it. And if he has the time and, if people are willing to wait, I don't care. It took, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. It took 7 months until I got these. And they did charge you basically around the time that they received the book. So, all right, it's been paid for months and months ago. I know he's good for it. He's going to come around and, good things come to those who wait. Patience is a virtue, as Michael Golden might say. You can look that one up. So, in the end, I'm more than happy, with the time wait and the quality of the work after that period of time. So the next opportunity, I do believe also that there are going to be different tier levels. So like, as I said, these were $585 each, and there was a $320 level, which was, slightly less detailed. But I believe they're going to have a wraparound sketch opportunity. So you can have a drawing on the front and the back, and, maybe they'll have one that has a background opportunity. I don't know what the other, I only know about the possibility of a wraparound as being, and of course that probably be, $1,000 or $1,200, or maybe you can get a cover with 2 characters, or, anything more additional is going to cost more, of course. So, but right now I am preparing, saving some money for the next one. I've already got a mummy, issue, as I mentioned earlier in this, live stream, that there is a mummy series that just came out, and I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, I don't know what their plans are, but I'm hoping by the time that the opportunity comes around that there is a Wolfman series, because I would love to get him to, I do have a really beautiful Wolfman that he drew, a Werewolf by Night, that I picked up about 10 years ago, full figure one that he drew, I think, in 2012. But I would love to get a Wolfman cover, and, of course there are other Universal monsters. I don't know what their plans are for other series, but maybe there'll be an Invisible Man series, Phantom of the Opera series. What other characters could there be within the Universal monsters? I mean, there's Hunchback of Notre Dame, but he's not really considered he is a Universal monster, but, these are, the main ones, the Bride, the Creature. I mean, you got the Metaluna Mutant from This Island Earth. It's a Universal picture, but that's more sci-fi, late 50s. These 4, the Invisible Man, and the Mummy, and the Wolfman are pretty much, and then the Phantom of the Opera, I think. Those 8 are the real classic ones. And then there are offshoots within that. I mean, there's also always different versions. You've got Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein, but if you want to get technical, you could say, I want the Glenn Strange Frankenstein, or, of course, the Karloff Frankenstein, or the Lon Chaney Jr. Frankenstein, or the Bela Lugosi Frankenstein. Or then, of course, later on, there's Hammer horror, and there's all kinds of, Curse of Frankenstein, and the Christopher Lee version, and, there's all kinds of versions of all these different monsters, but I'm sticking here with this series. They've got the blanks, and it's the Universal, it's the originals, and that's it. So super happy with how these turned out, these beautiful drawings. And they're going to go into a box. I have to figure out a way to be able to present them, to display them. I have no room in this basement, as you can see. I'm kind of surrounded by comic books everywhere. It's kind of out of control. So eventually I'm going to be able to make some room, and I got to get some wall space somewhere. I do have a couple of stands over in the back there that maybe I can find some place to put them. But, my ultimate goal is, of course, to be able to display them somehow rather than just have them sitting in a box. Right now they're displayed on internet websites and comic art fans and Facebook groups. So. Anyway, thanks for watching, whoever might still be here. Billy, if you're still around, good to, have you in here. I appreciate anybody that stopped in and took a look. And we'll see you on the internet. All right. Bye-bye.